On the way to the tavern, I had still maintained a conservative mind. At first, that is, for the fragile ozone layer. It was a relatively brisk day for a chilly bite in the air that dictated my green sweater to tag along my back. Although I may be as slow as a turtle anyway. I suppose the few folks on the block of Wayward Street decided to stay in on such an afternoon, yet it felt no warmer east on Wensington Avenue. So maybe lousy rainy weather on the rise was not a reason for lack of motivation to fill a tummy full of warm brew. Just ask my pal Felix, the bartender, and he'd be satisfied to balloon it into that business conversation for no extra charge. What a fulfilling freebie of lengthy conversation can turn into. And that's what I call soul food, you know? Even more so when you're a natural chatterbox like good old Felix. It's like a human jukebox, except with conversation instead of songs. He's not doing it to get extra chips neither, just plain nice of a fellow to check if someone stayed and needs tweaking, so... Yes, he is, and no, he isn't. Like a jukebox, I mean. I guess I'm just almost bragging about it. This is almost jovial attitude. Or has pretty much rubbed off on me after I started frequenting the place. If I'd known sooner. If I were him, a good old chew of the fat would be like a second, less formal tip. Maybe one reason is he doesn't like to talk to possibly new folk and keep in touch with returning ones right after or before and after the business hours. Anyway, on my walk there, I tend to observe some things around town that were already on my mind and hadn't really anything around me except for the hollow crunch of gravel from under my boots. My own boots. Kind of gives the tavern its own little environment on the corner. You see, he's made a sort of philosophy about the subconscious out of bartending. Treat your customers with constant dignity so that upon departure they'll feel as if they've made a friend. You'll be glad to tip them, same without a peep of a bribe. Or is that the same with all of them? To maintain a merry old soul, if you can help it, or if you can't help it, even better. I think I speak for all friends for Felix claims he's made when I count the sentimental ways about him. I'm sure he's made his wife proud, or perhaps he even got his outlook from her. You know, a totally opposite kind of guy who would never tell someone they had too much, since they spend more talking to him than drinking. Or to make like Michael Jackson and beat it, or anything that'd make him sound other than himself. You see, we're here for each other. I thought that I'd start out on our lengthy conversation by asking how effortlessly delighted his wife was any given day by his playing back summed up talks after a day's shift, also if he thought it covered fun topics. You know, now that I mention it, memory serves me that that alone was one thing inspiring me to write. and depending on the woman, it might inspire his other wives to write a divorce settlement. Maybe that's why he's so happy. Maybe not because of the money. After all, every chum has a right to brag about one or more of his bar pals. I feel as though I give an impression of bouncing merrily into the tavern with the Master of Gab, stood scrubbing one section of his beloved workplace clean with a dish towel. He hadn't looked up immediately when I shut the door behind me, like the task required concentration. As of this particular day, he had unearthed something just as intriguing, if not more than a daily hobby, or anticipation of what my talk would be. I didn't speak yet. Another thing he felt off balance. Every TV in the place was off. Now either he nonchalantly had them on when he arrived until this moment, in which he'd be less distracted, like scrubbing a really tough grease stain, or he never bothered with them. If talk helped the focus of either of them. In a new way, other than him starting a talk, I've been startled into silence before, having a rushing urge to ask what was different today. He can talk and talk and talk and never really know what else someone will be quirky about. He's never had telly off during the business hours that I remember, and I needn't be there all day to know. Maybe the TV helps talk. Subjects and all. The surprise of the changed area made me subconsciously walk to Felix slower with caution. He didn't move from his sight from the one spot as though he stared into an invisible crystal ball or remnants of one, and knew what he shouldn't talk about, or knew what my answer would be. He did scrub less and less the closer I stepped. He twitched a crooked eye in my direction. I more than half expected Felix, old buddy, old pal, to exclaim he'd turned a werewolf if he couldn't wear a dent in the counter, or groove. Except his welcoming, familiar grin sprung upon him. The usual, or can I get you? Or can he please get me a different dish towel? He raised his eyebrows like he wasn't expecting me to retrieve one from my sleeve, but like a magician. I'm here as a chatty customer as usual, but since you asked a favor, sure. He lifted the counter and I swiftly found a rather cleaner one, like it made a difference. I asked why he was so interested in how shiny the oak was in that spot. Just seeing how many quick swipes I can clean a spill in to save time. Depending on the day, you seem to often have spare time. I thought what you saw was what you got. You see it, I pour it, Monsieur. He proclaimed, now ending his fascination with what he thought I'd be concerned with in cleanliness, as though he were expecting me to say something on it. As though scrubbing it long enough would turn oak into formica and save money. But not talk. As you can see, about here was where I was catching on that something was off kilter about Felix's perspective. Had I known, I would have thought had a chair on my way back over here outside. Before I uttered another syllable after surveying the chalk of today's special drinks. Even though a lemon crave emerged upon my taste buds, Felix had precociously been scribbling on a spare napkin as though he read my mind. His attention was on something different already. Probably practicing not talking. I asked if he was a mind reader now, and he just made it sound like a jest. Actually, quite not, he answered with a grain of integrity. Just passing the moment with a doodle. While you use your noodle. Considering you have no TVs on, you might as well spend your shift practicing. Not a bad idea, he agreed. So, what'll it be? Alright, I'll have the Twisted Lemon Martini. Yes, that's what he named it. Coming up, he declared with a pat on the bar. I asked if he named it that to be funny or ironic. Sure. 'Tis more fun to say than lemon martini like any other typical tavern. Good to put enthusiasm in the name of it, to match the taste. Good point, eh? I nodded and he slid the napkin in front of me before fixing the drink. It took me a moment to understand it. I'm not really into the subject. A caricature of a hand reaching out of the White House or some establishment of power and handing a phony baloney Acme cigar to a voter next to another one, whose head exploded with the end bit dangling from his mouth and a face a cartoon charred mess and huge surprised eyes. At least it made sense. It was amusing. I paused in thought when the lemon drink was placed in front of me. It's a political joke I'm thinking of submitting to the papers. Kind of timeless, you know. I can't get my head around near half of them, so this speaks for the joke of that. I don't suppose you know any others? What do you call a guy with a rubber toe? I give up. I answer without guessing. Roberto. Yuck, yuck. Your turn. I took a sip, smacked my lips from the burning tang sensation, and sat back, twirling the lemon. The magician was driving down the road, then he turned to a driveway. Felix responded with as little as I had. He smiled after 3 seconds. Why did the cookie go to the hospital? I sipped again. Why? Because he felt crummy. I smirked, I admit. Is this a dumb joke game out of the blue? What would I win? A free drink? Huh. If you want to place a wager on it, I wouldn't recommend it as a drinking game. Pretty lame thing to say you won over drinks. At the expense of your health. I don't specialize anyway. Why do you do it when you can get a kick out of it on the internet? I say that drinks for relaxation. Treat yourself. Don't make it hurt on the way down. Besides, I don't have a whole list of drinking game subjects, and aren't the songs usually less pressure? Karaoke. Not unless you don't sing. A man who drinks too much out of passion of it certainly doesn't mind if he can't, and might anyway if he thinks he's good. Lest he fall asleep. I raised a glass. Cheers to that, then. I can dream a better song. I finished the rest in 2 gulps and coughed. I hit my chest with a balled fist. Well, thanks for that. Sorry to say at the moment, though, I can't think of any more funny, dumb jokes.